You'd think a manual for kings would be, well, kind of boring, right? A super dense, heavy book on political theory. But what if I told you one of the most influential guides to power ever written was actually a collection of animal fables? Today we're diving into Kalila and Dimna, an absolutely incredible book designed to teach rulers how to be wise. So let's see what secrets it's holding.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to meet the king, whose search for wisdom kicked this whole thing off. Then, we'll get into the really cool part, how the book is built like a set of Russian nesting dolls. After that, we'll step inside the lion's court to meet the two scheming jackals at the center of it all. We'll break down the big lessons for leaders, and finally, we'll ask why these ancient stories still hit so hard today.
Okay, so let's set the stage. Every great story needs a problem, a real challenge, right? Well, for Kalila and Dimna, it's a classic. You've got a powerful king who has literally everything he could ever want, except for the one thing that actually matters, wisdom. I mean, think about it. How do you teach wisdom to someone who's already at the top? You can't just hand them a textbook and say, read this. It has to be something that sticks. And that was the exact dilemma for an ancient Indian king named Shalem. He had all the power, all the wealth, but he had this nagging feeling. He knew he was missing the key to ruling justly.
So the king's journey starts in a pretty cool way. He has this prophetic dream, and it leads him to some hidden treasure. But get this, when he opens the chest, it's not full of gold or jewels. It's something way more valuable, a secret message from a king long dead. And the message is simple. Real treasure isn't money, it's wisdom. It even gave him 13 rules to get started. But to truly understand them, Shalem was told he had to find one specific person, a wise sage named Bidpai.
Okay, so the king finds the sage. And this is where things get really, really clever. Because Bidpai, the sage, he doesn't just sit the king down for a boring lecture on political theory. No way. He does something much more brilliant.
The technique is called a frame narrative, and you've probably seen it before. Think of 1001 Nights, with Scheherazade telling all those stories to save her own life. It's the same idea. You have one big, main story that acts as a frame, and inside that frame, you get a whole bunch of other, smaller stories. So, in our book, that outer frame is the conversation happening between King Shalem and the sage Bidpai. The king asks for help understanding those 13 rules of leadership, and Bidpai's answers, well, they become the container for every other story we're about to hear. But here's the twist. Instead of just giving a straight answer, Bidpai responds to each question with a story. An entertaining animal fable, to be exact, and each one is perfectly crafted to teach a specific lesson about what it means to be a good ruler.
But it gets even cooler. This is the part that just blows my mind. Inside those fables that Bidpai is telling, the animal characters themselves will start telling their own stories to each other to make a point. It creates this incredible nesting doll effect. You're suddenly layers and layers deep in stories, and each layer adds a whole new piece to the puzzle.
So how does this all play out in practice? Let's jump into the most famous story of them all, the one that actually gives the book its name.
All right, so the setting is an animal court, but let's be real, it's a stand-in for a human one. First, you've got the lion. He's the king, powerful for sure, but also kind of gullible. Then there's Chanabe the ox. He's the new guy who quickly becomes the king's favorite and most trusted advisor. And then you've got our two title characters, the Jackal brothers, Kalila and Dimna. And these two brothers could not be more different. Khalil, he's the cautious one. He's happy with his life, and he's constantly telling his brother, dude, stay out of court politics, it's dangerous. But Dimna, oh, he's the complete opposite. He is just burning with ambition. All he wants is to get into the king's inner circle and grab some of that power for himself.
So the conflict really kicks off when Dimna sees the king getting super close with Chanabe the ox. He gets crazy jealous. He sees the ox as a roadblock to his own ambition. So what does he do? He doesn't challenge him to a fight, no. He's smarter than that. He decides to destroy him with words. He starts this vicious smear campaign, whispering lies and rumors into the Lion King's ear, trying to poison him against his most loyal and capable friend.
And right there, that's the whole point of the book. This story about a scheming jackal isn't really about animals at all, is it? It's a massive cautionary tale. It's all about power, about trust, and about the complexities of human nature.
There's actually a name for this kind of book. It belongs to a genre called a mirror for princes. The idea is pretty cool. The stories are meant to act like a mirror. A ruler could look into them and see his own court, his own advisors, and maybe even himself reflected back. It's a tool for understanding how people really tick, the good and the bad, so you can learn to rule better.
And remember, all of this, all these wild stories about lions and jackals, it all goes back to the very beginning. It's all designed to teach King Dabshalom the meaning behind those 13 foundational rules he found in that treasure chest. So, what are these big lessons? Well, they're timeless. First, master yourself. Don't let things like anger or jealousy control you, like the lion did. Second, choose your friends wisely. Surround yourself with honest people, not just people who tell you what you want to hear. Third, think before you act. Don't be rash. And finally, be just. Don't be too quick to reward or punish, because that stability is what holds everything together.
There's this amazing quote from the book that sums it all up perfectly. Science is the tree, and action is the fruit. Think about that. It means knowledge is great, but it's totally useless if you don't do anything with it. A king can't just know about being wise, he has to actually be wise. The fables are the tree, but a just and fair rule, that's the fruit.
And the fables cover pretty much every angle of power and people. You have the main lion and ox story, which is all about betrayed friendship, but then you've got others, like a story about doves that teaches you about teamwork, or this really tragic one about a man and his loyal mongoose that's a huge warning against jumping to conclusions. There's even a story about crows and owls that's basically a masterclass in wartime strategy. It's got everything.
So that brings us to the big question, right? Why are we still talking about this book centuries later? I mean, it started in India, traveled through Persia, got translated into Arabic, and then just spread everywhere. What's its secret? What gives it that kind of staying power?
And the answer, I think, is actually pretty simple. Yeah, it was written as a manual for kings, but the lessons, they're for everyone. You don't need to wear a crown to understand the dangers of jealousy, or the importance of choosing your friends wisely, or the tragedy of acting on false information. That animal court isn't just a mirror for princes, it's a mirror for all of us.
So, at the end of the day, Kalila and Dimna proves that a well-told story can be the most powerful tool for teaching wisdom. And that makes you wonder, if you had to pass on one essential lesson about power, ambition, or trust, what story would you choose to tell?